Good afternoon, Dr. Nereida Robles. How are you today?
I'm very good, thank you. How are you doing, Dr. Otavi?
I'm very good. I'm really pleased that we can have a opportunity to look at school social work today. And before we get going, I just want to make sure that everybody knows a little bit about you, your background, and why you would be making this presentation today, because school social work is really your area of expertise. So you have a background as a Latina. You are from the Oaxaca area of Mexico originally, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. I'm from Oaxaca. I was born and raised in Oaxaca. My village name is Santiago La Chopa, and it's located in the mountains of Oaxaca.
So you have some unique perspectives on the needs of Indigenous people, and that's always really important in social work as we look at diversity. So you have accomplished an MSW as well as an educational leadership doctorate in your educational journey. So that's really coming from really humble beginnings in Mexico to having Dr. Robles is really a major accomplishment. Congratulations.
Thank you. I had the privilege to learn, how to read and write in Mexico. And when I immigrated here, I was 21. I attended adult school. And after that, I spent 10 years at a community college. And with the support of a lot of people, I was able to earn the doctoral degree in 2018.
Wow, that's impressive. So you are at Cal State Monterey Bay, where I also am faculty, and you are responsible for the credential and school social work, and really are mentoring a range of students in the area of school social work. And so what I'd like to do today is just learn more about the practice of school social work and then the unique credential in California. And, we can have a conversation. So I'll turn it over to you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you again for inviting me. This is an opportunity for me to share about the program, where students can get the Pupil Personnel Services Credential, the PPS, and at the same time, the Child Welfare and Attendance Authorization. So let me start with the slide, my slides here. So the PPS credential and child welfare and attendance authorizations are given by the California Commission on Teaching Credential. And with that, I'm going to say that I'm really happy and proud to share with all of you that we were reviewed last school year, and we were accredited for 7 years. So that was a big success from our part, because they look at every aspect on the program. They interview students, they interview professors as well, and they interview also places where our former interns provided support to children. So 7 years accreditation for the program. Earning the PPS and child welfare and attendance provides you an opportunity to provide school services to children and families, and also support students that are not attending school, identifying barriers. Why, how come, a child is not coming to school? That could be transportation, food, sometimes deportation, immigration, and all of those issues that prevent students to attend school and earn a high school diploma. And very important also to learn. So having a PPS, it's usually a requirement that requests by this school district to get employed in a K-12 in California public schools. And the PPS program and the child welfare and attendance are overseen by the College of Education and the Department of Social Work. So again, at CSUMB, we have the MSW, and within the MSW, we have the PPS. So students can, besides earning the MSW, besides graduating from the MSW program, they can also receive a PPS and child welfare and attendance authorization to work in schools. It provides us with a lot of opportunities, specifically to work with children and youth and advocate for them. Like I said a couple minutes ago, we never know why a student, the reason why students don't attend schools or they have difficult learning. And when we touch on that, we talk about trauma and their living situation, if students are on their own, not living with their parents or seeking asylum, or anyways, we become like detectives, and we do home visits and we identify the issues, the challenges that they have. We participate in interdisciplinary meetings where we try to advocate for the best for the students. We have opportunities to work with bilingual folks, with uh, advance our cultural humility. Uh, at the home visits, we learn about the community that we serve. And in addition to this, uh, the opportunities that the students get at the internships, we also provide networking nights. And that provides opportunities to students to connect to one another and to learn. We want to develop a culture of learning and support. And if students get interested in participating and applying to be part of the PPS and child welfare and attendance programs, they can be in the 2 or the 3-year pathway. We still have opportunities if you are in the 2-year pathway to apply for the program. So please contact me if you have any questions. Some of the roles, the essential works of a school social worker, where we want our schools to be safe. We want our students to feel safe. We want our families to feel that the school climate is a positive school climate so their students can learn. We provide mental health to students. Our students can work one-on-one with their clients, or they can also run groups. And something very important in the profession is that we need to be flexible. We never know when we have service crisis situations where our services are required. I myself am a district school social worker, so I'm assigned to 3 sites. One is a continuation school, and the other ones are a comprehensive high schools. So, but I need to be available. I need to be flexible. So what I usually tell my interns is that, please just make sure that you attend your meetings, you attend any IEPs or 504s that you are invited, but be flexible because you never know when you're going to have a student in a crisis and you need to be there ready for them.
So in the acronym IEP is the Individualized Educational Plan, is that correct?
Yes, yes.
And that's federally required. So students with any particular needs, any kinds of disabilities, the schools have obligations to create a unique plan, and the social worker is really integral in that process, right?
Correct, yes. So we participate a lot in interdisciplinary meetings where you have an administrator, a counselor, a social emotional counselor, sometimes psychologists, nurses, and our input is very important. And the reason is because we develop this relationship with the student, this relationship with the families. We bring what we don't see in schools onto the table, and then we advocate for students.
Sounds like almost a bit of a bridge between the school, the student, the family, pulling the pieces together when there's a challenge.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's correct. That's correct. Yes. I mean, the opportunities to do home visits, it's a learning experience every day. You learn something every single day with your students. In schools, we don't call them clients, and I made a mistake. It's students. It's students. Um, So we also,
I love that you differentiate, that you don't call the students clients, because one of the things I like to remind my beginning students is the word client actually really creates a dependency model that we want to be really careful about. We want to really acknowledge the roles that people have in their identities, and part of, and kind of your role as a social worker and the student as learner and engaged in an educational environment rather than client. What a great example. Thank you.
sure. I also would like to add another example, which is like you get, as a school social worker, you get access to the school's database. So you can look at attendance, you can look at grades, you can look at if the student is missing a homework. I mean, you can connect the student with the teacher. You can advocate for this, so that teacher gives additional time to turn in an assignment. I mean, you have a lot of power as a social worker, as an advocate for your student, and you try your best to support that student and the family. In addition to that, by doing home visits, for me, that's a very, very important part of my role, because it's a privilege when somebody opens the doors of their homes to you. And it's like I said before, it's always a learning experience, developing my cultural humility. I mentioned that I was from Oaxaca, and I have worked with other Oaxaqueños, but I'm also Mexican. Another identity is being Mexican and immigrant. So, but I keep learning. I keep learning from my community. I keep learning from their community, and it's just fascinating to do home visits and to learn, to be a constant learner. Um,
So one of the
so
things that I learned about home visiting when I was doing that kind of work was you're really walking into somebody else's sphere of intimacy. You're really learning about their environment, what's happening, literally structurally, the size of the home, how things are laid out. Whether, I don't want to suggest that we're there to make sure things are tidy, but a sense of order or not, because if kids come from kind of chaotic environments, that can really show through in how they're attending class or getting their assignments done. So you're really able to kind of observe really the natural environment, that ecology, that social ecology at that level of the home. And it's really enlightening.
exactly, yes, we have I mean, as a school social worker, I think we really put in practice like the theories that we learn in school, such as, let's say, conflict theory, ecological perspective theory, the systems theory. You know, and it's just not the home. By visiting the home, it's the neighborhood, it's the area. What your student experiencing at 4 o'clock, for example, or what is what he sees at 8 o'clock when he's on his way to school, or how many rooms does the apartment where he is living have? How many families live there? Can he have privacy? And especially during COVID, a lot of all of the education was through using Chromebooks. Did the students have internet? If there was 5 students living in one room, how we had this issue at schools that students would not show their faces, and we needed to advocate for some students, because if they were not defiant, they were not disrespectful to teachers. It's just that there was a lot that they couldn't share. They were not ready to share. So
Right. The social environment really was really challenging. And I love that you brought up not only what's going on in the immediate environment in the home, literally space to study and be engaged in thinking, but also the larger neighborhood. We know neighborhood is very connected to outcomes in terms of youth well-being, being engaged, attending school. So I think that aspect of neighborhood and your ability to get out and make some of those assessments as a school social worker is really a strength of this aspect of the profession.
mhm, yes, and the last on this slide is like providing classroom and student behavior support. So again, by getting that connection with the students and the families, by developing that trusting relationship, we get to learn more about what happened to the student, or thinking what is the why the behavior. how can we help the student? Was there trauma in the past? Or is there generational trauma? Or what's happening? What's happening? How can we help the student? And instead, again, to think of the child is defined, or the child doesn't come, or the child doesn't care, or the parents don't care about education, which was something that it really um, it really impacts me negatively when I hear that these parents do not uh, value education. And being an immigrant, being an indigenous, being a person of color, that really affects me, because when we cross the border, we do want a better life. So in a way, we do care about education. We want our children to be in school. We want our children to have a better life, better
Right.
chances, other chances.
The motivations of our clients, the families that we work with, and their value systems, we really need to work hard to think through those environmental experiences and what brings people to schools or other organizations. And I'm really really pleased to see you bring up the whole idea of providing classroom support, because you see these behaviors in the classroom, or maybe a disruptive student, or a student that's sleeping, or any kinds of other behaviors that the teachers are concerned with. You get connected in to try to make an assessment. And one of the things I always say to my students is, if this is true, whatever the behavior is, if this is true, then what else is true? We have to ask the next set of questions, because there's always so many layers to peel back when we make assessment.
Mm-hmm. And in regards of that, like on top of behavior, it's attendance. What is behind the attendance? Does the child has somebody sick at home? Do they have a younger sibling? What they're doing? What is the support that they are providing their parents? Sometimes their parents they have mental health issues. Sometimes the parents have other issues. Sometimes there are no parents at home, and we get to learn a lot about that, and advocate for modification on their learning plan, and or a modification on their class schedule. For example, I have a student from Guatemala, and his parents are going to be returning their country in December. The child he's 16 years old. He has been working 2 jobs through the whole summer, and he didn't show up for the first week of class. So we did a home visit, and we learned that he was working 2 jobs. And he asked me, please allow me to work. I really need to make some money. My family is leaving, and I'm gonna be on my own. So what I did, um, I was thinking, how can I help this kid? I mean, he's being honest to me. How can I help him? I know that by law he needs to be in school, but he also needs to have a place to live. He also needs to bring food. He also needs to he has needs. So education for him was yes, I want to go to school. However, I need to survive. Survival was first. So he's at the continuation school with the support of my supervisor. He was placed in the continuation school, and he starts from 9 to 2 o'clock. So that allows him the opportunity to work. He quit his morning job, and now he only has 1 job. So I'm very content, because, I mean, that was an easy case because he's going to school and he's also working. He doesn't have homework, because that's one thing that I was worried about. If he was in the comprehensive school, he wouldn't go, he wouldn't do the homework, and we would just lose this student. So by advocating for him, and with the support of my supervisor, we were able to provide an adequate place for him.
So I'm glad that you brought up a country like Guatemala, because a lot of people think that our immigrants a lot of our immigrants are Mexican, and that's true. But we have a lot of Central Americans amongst us, and they do bring some interesting challenges around the economies of their countries, very extreme poverty, really difficult circumstances. So for this young man to be working is not really kind of consistent with the lived experience in Guatemala. Going to school after the age of 12 or 13 years old is pretty unusual there. So in his family life, this expectation that he manage school and work. This is a part of their history. And, you know, if they're going home, if the parents are going home and they hope that he'll continue his education, trying to navigate that and help support that is really important. So I really like that case example. Thanks so much.
Sure, thank you. So the next slide, it talks more about the PPS. So again, I already talked about that some of the opportunities that we have with the credential is to do home visits. We visit schools, we have the opportunities to be in the classroom, identifying the factors that could affect the students' learning. We always trying to innovate our practices, you know, again, developing cultural competence, building that trusting relationship with parents, students, and the school staff as well. You know, we participate in crisis interventions. We do a lot of um, we we practice a lot of motivational interviewing. We connect with different resources in the community. We consult, participate, collaborate with teachers, administrators, parents, attendance people. For me, it's really important. The relationships are very important. You have to be accountable. People need to trust you because once they refer a student, they already have their own interventions within their schools. So when they reach out for the social worker, it's because they have done a lot of work already. And that family and that student is also tired, you know, from phone calls, from making appointments that and having meetings, attending meetings, and sometimes those parents or students don't show up to those meetings. So we need to be aware that there was already interventions. There were already interventions done by the school staff when they reach out the social worker. We also
Right, because social workers wouldn't specifically target every single student for extra care and attention. It's really the students that rise to kind of the attention in terms of what needs to happen for a unique case and some case management, right? I mean, you do some general interventions in the school, but you really do focus in on those at-risk youth.
yes. So in schools we have the multi-tier student support, the MTSS, and 80% of the students are in that level one, you know, at the bottom of the pyramid, and then 20 or 80, so 15% will be on the second level, and the 5% will be tier three, you know, and we work, social workers work with that tier three, the most needed students.
So that's 5% of the school population on average then.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yes.
so for the neediest students, the students that really are at risk of not completing school and have lots of challenges.
Yes. Oftentimes we get refer students that have been hospitalized, you know, two times, one time, three times, and there's more need. They need more support. They need additional support. We also help coordinate with family, school, community resources, all on behalf of our students. And I want to talk again about the same case, the student from Guatemala. The mom, I spoke with the mom, and in regards of community resources, I was again, I have been working a lot with Mexicans and people from El Salvador, but I'm very new with the Guatemalan community. So I was very impressed that this lady was, you know, I was telling her that there were some resources because her health is not very well. So because her health is not well, she's deciding to go back to Guatemala. You know, she's worried that she could um, die here in this country, and then how would her body would be repatriated to Guatemala. So I said, you know, well, we have resources, we have an emergency medical, I can take you to a clinic. What can I do for you? And she said, no, 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 I don't need any help. I don't want any help. She didn't want any community resources. This is what she said, no quiero que sepan que existo. No quiero que sepan que estoy aquí. So basically, she wanted to be invisible. She didn't want any services because she didn't want no one to know that she was in this country undocumented.
So can I clarify, is this woman whose difficulties with health has come to your attention, is she by any chance indigenous? Because almost 50% of the population in Guatemala is indigenous. Is she in that category?
Yes, yes, she is.
Okay, so the whole sense of being invisible is part of the experience of Guatemala too, because the indigenous people have been oppressed, they've experienced genocide. So don't bring attention to yourself, keep your head down, work hard, live a good life, but don't bring attention to yourself is really part of that experience. So that's some information about her that I'm sure you have some appreciation for also as an indigenous woman,
Mhm,
in which there's the majority population can really be dangerous for you.
mhm. Yes, something that I have experienced from people from Oaxaca is that sometimes they don't tell you that they are from Oaxaca, until I share, I'm from Oaxaca or I'm from Mexico. Um, and that's when they said, "Oh, I'm from Oaxaca too." But I have experienced that indigenous people don't wanna, uh, they don't wanna say that they are indigenous because of the, like you mentioned, oppression. You know, because it happens also in Mexico. Um, but anyways, it was just very sad to hear that. It wasn't something new. However, it was something. Okay, yes, this is what's happening. This is why this lady is going back and leaving her son here, and knowing that they probably are never gonna see each other again. And so this kid needs to learn English, needs to know how to write a check, needs to know how to add the hours that he's gonna work. Needs to improve his life here. So.
Right. And he's coming from a family situation where life skills are really hard to learn when your own parents are challenged. And, I just want to say one more thing, because I feel really strongly about the Guatemalan people. They're such survivors. And one of the things about the cultural context of this particular family is the traditional family life, some of the health beliefs, being buried somewhere other than your homeland is really a really difficult thing to imagine. So this family is going through a lot of challenges with a 16-year-old trying to be effective and be successful in his life. And what a difficult thing to do, to walk away. She must be really have a lot of courage.
Mhm. Yes, yes. So one more thing that that I would like to add about home visits is that, if people are um, welcoming you, then you enter, but you never say, "Can I come in?" Or you never force yourself. It's like you first need to develop that relationship. And I also learned that this lady gets up at 4 o'clock every morning to make tortillas. They don't go and buy tortillas from the store, like I do. She makes her own tortillas, and and besides working, she needs to make sure that people eat. So there's a lot of she's she's doing a lot for her family here, and just to think that she's going to leave her son, it's uh it's sad. It was just sad to hear.
So you were
um
able to learn more about her daily pattern, getting up at the crack of dawn to make tortilla, and just that, and very traditional family life, but from
mhm,
that home visit. Great.
mhm. Oh yes, no, yes, like in my village, the ladies make tortillas every day. I mean, every day, and basically for every meal. Like if you're gonna have your almuerzo or your comida or your cena, because you have 3 meals, because people are campesinos. They work the land, they work hard. So, and it's not just like, let's say, bread with butter. It's food. It's a plate with food, beans, and the tortillas, because that's what it keeps you ready to work.
Yes. Thank you for that. It's a
Sure.
reminder of how our families really, that cultural context of hard work and what our immigrant families bring to us as social workers, and trying to understand, their daily existence.
Hmm. Yes. So now we're gonna move into the child welfare and attendance. I work with law enforcement. I collaborate with law enforcement. I would rather go with the law enforcement to do a home visit than the law enforcement going by themselves. In schools, we have resource school officers, and we collaborate a lot with them because we want to make sure that our families um, are not scared, that they not that they don't get intimidated, but that they see us as support. We also
But you have to really overcome that idea that you're in authority and then start to really make sure people understand that you're there to be a partner.
Yes, and it was difficult. It is difficult sometimes because, but like I said, and that's why I said that trusting relationship is very important. That respect, that trusting relationship is really important with the school staff, with law enforcement, and you are not there to be on the way. You are there to support them, and but to support the family or the student. I work a lot. I collaborate with probation officers, get information like if a student of mine is detained in juvenile hall, making sure that the student doesn't have an interruption on the studies, that um, that I can send the transcript, or that I can say I can send a class schedule so the student gets education, even if the student is detained in a juvenile facility. Something else is that I need to be constantly learning about new laws, about child welfare and attendance laws. I like to participate in professional developments. I encourage the students, the interns, to participate, in professional development. We have to. There's we always need to do research. I know that the word research is intimidating. I in particular, I was like, when I was in the MSW program, when I heard research, I was like, oh no, research, But as a social worker, you are always doing research. You are always updating your knowledge. Oops, I did something. Okay.
I can imagine some of the research that you have to do is really starting to look at child development, the ages and stages, and the things that we know work, the intervention strategies, some of the programs and services that are possible, maybe replicating services from other places. There's a lot to learn as you keep going and think about individual cases.
Exactly, yes. And every case is so different. So every case gives you the opportunity to learn. In addition to that, there's a lot of new laws because of COVID. We have to learn about students that if they were in the foster education system, they have less credits to require from high school. If they're homeless, we need to know about the McKinney-Vento Act very well so we can advocate for them, like providing them like with bus transportation or any school materials that they need. We need to advocate for our students, for our most needed students, so that way they can have a chance in schools. And again, as I mentioned before, just the constant learning from the families, from the students. We have our demographics are changing in schools, and we need to innovate our practices. We need to learn a lot from the families that we serve. But 7 years ago, I think I had my first, no, yeah, 7 years ago, I had my first student, from El Salvador. And that student really changed my life because I was just used to working with Mexican students and families. And I learned a new vocabulary. Although we speak the same language, Spanish, they have different words for stuff, And some of our students were getting suspended for being disrespectful when they were not disrespectful. So we have to make sure also to make sure that we understand what the students and what the families are telling us.
Well, that's an interesting point about diversity, that literally that the language of Spanish can be so different across a pretty small region. I mean, Central America is, right there next to Mexico. And yeah, there really is some differences in the Spanish and then how the expected behaviors and maybe what might be considered talking back and some of the other issues. So, understanding that background and taking time to stop and think and clarify, and then explain, right? Explain some of the expected behaviors, which is something we have to do with social workers frequently.
Yes. So to be in the PPS program, you need to have more internship hours. There are not that many. You need to participate in interdisciplinary meetings, be involved in the community, learn the community that you serve. Um, if you want the child welfare attendance, it's an additional like 20 hours, I'm gonna say. So for a total, to receive the PPS and the child welfare attendance, it's a total of 1,020 hours. So it's not that many hours, but what you learn in schools, it's really, it impacts kids, by interns or by you earning but your students interested in earning the PPS, it will really create an impact on marginalized communities.
So this is 1,020 hours across 2 semesters in a school setting, right?
Yes, yes, both of the years can be in a school setting. However, it's recommended that the first internship can be at a different agency. So they bring that experience into their final year, and that final year will have to be in a school setting.
Yeah, I would imagine doing a child protection field practicum and then in addition to a school one would be a nice blending of experiences.
Mm-hmm. Yes, or in a mental health setting as well, like seeing clients and then bringing all of that experience, that wealth of experience into the schools. That would just be the uh, excellent experience. Yeah. So I'm the coordinator of the PPS program, Child Welfare and Attendance. My name is Nereida Robles again. My email address is nerobles@csumb.edu. And I really hope that we can, if you were interested, please reach out to me. Again, we have the 2-year pathway or the 3-year pathway. And once you receive your diploma, you can also be a clinical social worker. You can continue your education, obtain a PhD, or get your EDD. Because
So that's the credential you have as an EDD, an educational doctorate in leadership.
Yes, that's correct. Yes, you can also obtain your master's in administration, become an administrator, be the agent of change, bring that innovation into our schools, bring that cultural perspective. And instead of suspending students, practicing restorative justice, building up circles, building up that trust. We need more students to graduate from schools, and less students incarcerated.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I feel like I got a good education today around school social work. And I think that the young man from Guatemala, his challenges in terms of balancing the realities of his life, the need to earn a living as well as finish his school, was a really good example of a case that you've done some really intensive case management, including home visiting and trying to negotiate for this young man's long-term future. And it really shows really what a difference we can make as social workers when we really tailor our attention and learn about the client, work with the client as the expert of their experience, and help them figure out their solutions. And he wants to go to school, so what a strength.
Mm-hmm. Yes, would like to to see him graduate from high school, you know, and keep working. And I really have a hopes that maybe he can continue it, his education, Cabrillo College, or something where he can get a certificate, have very have a quality of life, you know, honor the goal that his parents have when they cross the border, um, and be able also to support his family back there in Guatemala, because that's one of the reasons people immigrate, you know, to improve their lives, to improve their lives of the people that they left behind. And I really have high hopes for this student, and I am very honored that, and I'm very glad also that he's attending school, and then he has a job. I respect him a lot for having a job, you know, at 16.
Absolutely. Well, on that, I'm going to say thank you very much. I think we've learned a lot today.
Great. Well, thank you so much.